Wow. Okay, Lauren, great. It's such a pleasure to have you here. We are so excited, and we want to kick things off before we jump into the playbook of how you start your career in clinical research. I want us to discuss a little bit about why you would want to do this in the first place. Clinical research is the industry where we are working with live patients, developing and testing out new, what we call investigational products, IP. Investigational products are new devices, new drugs, new therapies that could potentially improve our quality of life or change our lives. And just as an example, I was just learning about a new treatment that is it's in trial still, and it's a genetic treatment for kids who are born with a genetic mutation that actually causes them to die in the first 3 to 5 years of life. What a tragic thing for a parent to have a child and then watch them pass away so early. And they have a disorder called spinal muscular atrophy, and it causes, the result is death. Well, with this new genetic treatment that's in trial, with one injection, it allows so far it's in trial, these children are living healthy lives, and now they're turning 3, 4, 5 years old, and they are completely healthy, normal children. And it's through clinical trials and clinical research that we're able to test and develop these new medications. And so for me, that's why I love being in this field so much. Lauren, can you tell a little bit about why it's so important to you, this field?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think for everyone looking to get into clinical research, we all have some personal reason why, that thing that drives you to want to work with people to make a difference in the future of medicine. And for me, that's always been exactly it. I actually, looking back in my career, I always thought that when I was in college, at least, that I wanted to go to medical school. But, a doctor can touch a finite number of lives in their career. And of course, I respect doctors and everything that they have to offer into the medical community. But with clinical research, doctors can't do what they do without us, and nurses can't do what they do without us. And so for me, working in clinical research, working on these brand new advancements, medications, devices, therapies that are coming down the pike, being able to offer that to participants in the trials, but also knowing that my work, if I do good quality work and I'm dedicated to this, that through what I'm doing, I can touch more than just that one life sitting in front of me, that more than that one participant, and kind of echo on. I know a lot of my colleagues have worked on, so many drugs that have gotten approved. I've worked on approvals myself and whatnot. But, you think about a disease like Hep C or HIV that, within our lifetime, that was a death sentence. That was something that, you were diagnosed with, and that was that. It wasn't a matter of will you die from this? It's when will you die from this? And now, that's curable. It's crazy to throw around that
Wow.
cure word. That's where we're at.
And we are developing more and more treatments, and this is a growing field. Another reason why people who are interested in healthcare, interested in the sciences, can move into a growing and exciting and innovative career. In the United States, the estimates are that this is over $150 billion being invested each year in just clinical trials. Now, clinical research is part of the global pharmaceutical industry, which is over $1 trillion. And there are so many avenues to work in, but just these clinical trials alone are $150+ billion industry. And it's been growing over the past few years. And Lauren, can you believe this? There's over 70,000 open positions that are unfilled right now in clinical research. What are these positions? Can you go over that real briefly?
Of course. It's absolutely incredible. I think back just a few years ago, and we thought it was astounding that there were 50,000 open positions in the field, and now there's over 70. And there's a lot of things contributing to this. Well, we understand disease processes more, of course. We understand more of how we can develop really good treatments for individuals, especially if we think about things like immunotherapy. But the positions that are open are really wide ranging. A lot of people start their career in the clinical research coordinator position. This position is near and dear to my heart. This is where I spent my career, actually working with the participants. So it's great. It's not like the rushed healthcare that we think of when we think of going to see a doctor. As a coordinator, you're working with the participants. You're making sure that they are informed and consenting to being in the trial. You're working with them as they go through the study procedures and administering that investigational product that David mentioned earlier. You're really working with, of course, the doctors who are in charge of the trial, but you're interfacing with a lot of people external to your site. So you could be working at a hospital or a doctor's office or an independent research site, running anywhere from phase 1 trials, first in human, to phase 3, where we're gearing up to submit to the FDA to get that approval, hopefully. So that's a really awesome position where you're collecting the data. A lot of people go on to become a clinical research associate. This is for those, they call themselves road warriors within the industry. They travel around a lot, really concerned with the quality of the data being collected and that the sites are executing the protocols properly. But there are so many other directions you can go. We find that people sometimes gravitate towards to data management. If you're more IT minded and very into the details, data management's a great field. Some people love the regulatory side of things, and there's a whole career path, not just a job, but a career path within regulatory. Some people really want to evolve to be a project manager. And I love it because in today's remote world, once you get your foot in the door, that's really what it takes. You get a little bit of that experience and you can kind of set up shop from wherever you have Wi-Fi with your computer a lot of the times, which is kind of cool. But there's a lot of different avenues to go. But the biggest piece, of course, is getting that little bit of experience to make you really marketable in the field.
Wow. And I just pulled this map off of clinicaltrials.gov, which is a website I recommend you all go to, clinicaltrials.gov, where every single clinical trial around the world is being registered. And that's so we can determine what's safe, what's effective, what's working, but also what's not working, so that the scientists can determine new types of treatments. They're not duplicating failed efforts. They're starting new efforts. In the United States, 125,000 registered trials, and the growth of this industry has been exponential. There's a lot of opportunity out there. It's so exciting. And can you talk about this graph with our audience, please, Lauren?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a trend. I mean, I don't know what happened in 2016 there, but we're seeing a trend with more of these approvals. And a lot of it is, we have, just like I said earlier, we know a lot more about what's going to work for people. We're seeing certain drugs being fast-tracked through that FDA approval process because we just understand more of what's going to work better. So what's being developed now is more effective, and we know that it's safer. And so we're able to kind of run these through the trials even more efficiently than we used to. But this also speaks to the availability of the trials, of people being knowledgeable about clinical research, about being involved in the trials, as well as the people running them. So it's really incredible to see that amount of growth with the number of approvals that we're seeing every year. That's just more patients whose lives are being hopefully, really touched and affected by these drugs.
Wow. But I also want to let everyone know, with the new treatments and new drugs that are coming out, we're doing trials in oncology, cancer research. We're doing a lot of precision medicine and biotechnology and genetic trials. And we're doing much more complex trials in therapeutic areas, ranging from heart disease to diabetes to liver disease, NASH, and others. So to get in this industry, it's not a slam dunk piece of cake. Just because you have an interest in healthcare or a biology degree, or maybe you're in healthcare already, that doesn't get you in the door right away. So can we talk about the challenges of getting in? We want to talk about how you get in, but let's look at those obstacles right now that we have.
Yeah, so here you can see, experience needed. If you look at these job descriptions, they're all going to say you need at least 2 years of experience to get into the field. And that's simply because if we look at number 2, we are a risk-averse industry. Like I alluded to earlier in clinical research, we are giving something experimental to a human person, and we're asking, is this safe? And does it work? So of course, everybody wants to hire someone who has done it before, who has experience, but really what that means is they need someone who speaks the language of research. If you say something like SAE or IND or FDA, do you know what those things mean? And more importantly, do you know how to handle something like an SAE? That's really what we mean when we say that we need experience in the industry, because we are so risk averse. And like I mentioned earlier, it's not bench research. It's not what I thought back in 2006 when I thought, oh, research, you got to be in the lab with the pipettes and the petri dishes. I was in an awful rat lab. No, this is where we're actually working with people to test these new medications, devices, and therapies. But these are the challenges that people run into. You kind of run into this catch-22 of you can't get a job without experience and you can't get experience without a job. And that's kind of the state of the industry right now.
You know what? I want to take a pause right now and I want to poll the audience, and I'm going to launch this poll. And how many of you have already tried to get in the industry, but you haven't been able to yet? Because we know there's challenges and we know it's difficult. The poll went out and I want you all to just start answering this poll. And here's the fact of the matter. We work with research sites around the country. Our instructors come from places like Emory University, from the Mayo Clinic, from Banner Health, from Duke University. These are some of the top academic research organizations and site networks, including Synexus, Meridian, Eligo, you name it. And they're telling me the same thing, Lauren. If someone comes in an interview and they're talking about an ECRF and the person has no clue what an ECRF is, the interview's over and they move on to the next candidate. So really what we need is to make sure anyone applying to these jobs that they're ready. And I'm looking at this poll and I'm going to end the poll in just a minute, but about a little over half, 57% of you have tried to get in the field, and about 45% have not. So right now, what we want to talk about is how do we get in? What are those challenges and what are the key elements of getting hired? And I want to say right off the bat, Lauren, when we talk about these interviews and they say you need 2 years of experience, they don't really mean 2 years of experience. No one can start in a field with 2 years of experience. What they're looking for is competency. And what is competency? Can you talk a little bit about these elements of getting hired?
Yeah, absolutely. When you sit down in those interviews, they want to know that you know what it takes to be in the industry. I mean, it's, it's hard work. It's really rewarding work, but you're working with people in the forefront of medicine. So there's a lot that goes into it. They want to make sure that you aren't going to come into their facility and screw up the trial, for lack of a better description. And so when they sit down in the interview and they say, walk me through the IC process or walk me through how you handle an SAE, if you sit there a little like deer in the headlights, that conveys to them, okay, you're not going to be a good hire because you're not going to protect the right safety and well-being of our participants, which is the #1 guiding principle in this industry. And so really when they say they want someone experienced, what they mean is they want someone who understands, one, what it takes to be in the industry, who can speak the language of clinical research and has a foundation of which they can build. That's one thing I actually love about the industry is you're never bored. If you're in this webinar right now and you're someone who likes to be bored, this might not be the best industry for you. Because in clinical research, we're always working with new protocols. We're always working in the future, so there's new problems that arise that we have to figure out how to solve because we've never encountered them before because we're working on something brand new. But that all comes down to having a really strong foundation. Oh, David, I think you're muted.
No. Oh, no.
Oh, there you are. There you are.
All right, there we go. Sorry. I want to talk a little bit about #3 on the slide, which is connections. People say, oh, it's not just what you know, it's who you know. But really, there's a little bit more to that because if you have connections and you can get in the door, you still will benefit from training and experience. So connections will get you to an interview. And that's really what's so important. Now, through our organization, we're connected to over 200 research organizations around the country, and we introduce our students who take our program to our colleagues. But that doesn't just get you a job automatically because you actually have to go to an interview and they have to select you. So what we're looking for to enter this industry are people who are detail-oriented, who are passionate about research, who can communicate well. And if you're someone who's educated, who's bright, and you want to work in clinical research, we will help provide those missing elements, the connections, and the support, because you may have to go to 1 or 2 interviews or even 3 before you get hired. But if you have the support And Lauren, can you tell about some of the things we help our students do to get in the industry? We're talking about our playbook. What is that playbook? Let's look under the hood a little. Can you explain what that playbook is?
Yeah, of course. I mean, getting it, of course, starts with and our support within that starts with a solid resume and cover letter. So we support you all along the way in that. A lot of times people say, well, do I need to hire a professional resume writer? No, we're going to go back and forth, but we're not just going to spoon feed it to you. You got to work together so that you actually acquire the skills too of updating your resume and cover letter. But it starts there, of course. It's kind of the first step. What that also means then is helping you to identify opportunities through the application process. Once you start getting interviews, running questions and going through what those interviews look like, practicing before you're actually in the setting. We always have students who get things like Skype interviews. Great, we're gonna run through a Skype interview with you and test it. If you're getting an interview in an oncology setting, we're gonna run you through some oncology specific questions. If you're getting an interview for a CRA type position, we're gonna run some questions with that. So it's kind of getting really comfortable with the types of questions you're going to be fielding, but also in that understanding the bigger picture of what you will be asked to do in that said position.
Great. Well, so what I'd like to do now, Lauren, is, we're talking abstractly, helping with interviews, helping with training and experience. Why don't we give a specific example? And can you talk a little bit about Edgar? Now, Edgar was a chemist. I think he had majored in chemistry in college. He was working for a company, I believe it was Mitsubishi, and he was making hydrogen peroxide in the labs for Mitsubishi, but he wanted more from his career. And you can tell about how we helped Edgar and where he is now.
Yeah, no, Edgar, he, was nervous to do the career shift, but wanted something more meaningful, wanted better hours, wanted something where he could kind of come home at the end of the day, share with his family about what his day was like, and kind of be, I guess, proud of what he was doing and the contribution he was making. And so he went all in on himself, really, said, I can do this, I can make this change. And in making that change, I can make a difference in medicine. And so took that leap through our program. We set him up with a really great internship. And through that internship, he was able to network and really kind of show off his skills. And, this is a lot of who you know, and you got to start cultivating your reputation very early. And through networking, through connections, he's able to land a great job as a coordinator running arthritis and rheumatology trials, which is something that's very close to his heart, a therapeutic area that's close to, his loved ones as well. So for him, it was about helping him to cultivate those connections as well as his reputation to get out there and show the world what he has. So he's been making a difference now for a couple of years.
Yeah, and we provided that great training. He went in the interview knowledgeable, confident. He knew how to speak about clinical research. He had practiced it in the classroom in his internship. But it just took him 1 month to land a job after he finished his internship, which was really exciting. But the most exciting part of all, he instantly started at $10,000 more than he was making before. So he had a big pay jump the first day out of our program. And that's always a thrill. And please note, he had a chemistry background. He wasn't a healthcare professional. He hadn't worked in hospitals or doctor's office before, but he really made that transition nicely. Can you also talk, we have another graduate I want to talk to you about, Deirdre. She wasn't in healthcare either. And can you tell us about Deirdre? What's her story?
Oh, of course. This is, Deirdre is awesome. She's now over at Winship Cancer Center. For those of you who are familiar with the oncology research landscape here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Winship Cancer is part of Emory University. That's Emory's oncology center. Okay, so she's hired there, but how did she get there?
Yes, no, exactly. Deirdre took our program. Her background is in education, but most recently, and that was, I believe she's teaching 6th or 7th grade. And then she wanted a career change, something else, was kind of burnt out of teaching, went into actually being a realtor. And that's what she had been doing for a while, but it just wasn't fulfilling. She, again, just like Edgar, went all in on herself. I think that's where it starts, is in realizing that you want to contribute something more. You want a rewarding career path, somewhere where you can really learn and grow and give back. So knocked it out of the park in our classroom, made great connections, really stood out to a lot of the instructors. And that's really where it starts, when you're cultivating your reputation right there. Went into internship, did a phenomenal job, to the point where her mentor there said, let me help you, let me refer you somewhere. And that's kind of how she got that interview. And we did a lot of the interview prep. She went into it ready to roll, and called me after, and a couple days after that said, I start soon. I got the offer. So, you know, again, it starts with that training, that foundation, where in that interview, you're able to talk that clinical research talk, you're speaking the language, you're putting your interviewer at ease by saying, hey, I know what it takes to be in this industry. And then cultivating that reputation and putting it to work.
Wow. Wow. And that's a great story too. But I also want to know, for you healthcare professionals in the group, this is a great profession. Also, if you're in healthcare, we gave 2 examples. Edgar was in chemistry. Deirdre was a real estate agent. But we have nurses. If you're a medical assistant, you're qualified and ready for this as well. We have so many questions coming in, Lauren. I wanted to take some of them. Someone wants to know about all the weeks of training. And the weeks, our program can be completed in just 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks usually. It includes 8 days in our training center, and we have training centers around the country. We have a student that says, I want to work in Atlanta when my sister lives there. Well, we have a training center in Atlanta, also in Austin, Texas, in Philadelphia, in Scottsdale, Arizona, Raleigh, North Carolina. So we train around the country, and you can contact us with those dates. And it's 8 days in our training center, 10 hours a day, 80 hours. But then there's additional 68 hours online, and you do the online from home, wherever you live. And then we have that 2-week internship at one of our partner sites, a clinical trial site, where you're going to be observing everything you've learned in the classroom. Now you're observing, you're learning in real life. And in that internship, you're networking with research professionals, but also in the classroom, you're meeting about 14 to 16 clinical research professionals. These are people working in the field every day. They come from Emory University. They come from the Mayo Clinic. They come from these big site networks like Synexus. And you're networking and you're gaining those connections you need to get in the field. Wow, we have so many more questions coming in. I don't know if we'll have time for all of them, but I do want to just reiterate those 4 key elements to getting hired. Can you go over them real quickly, just so that everyone has them under their belt, Lauren?
Yeah, of course. It starts with training. In this industry, like we've been saying, it comes down to trusting your new hire, trusting them to execute what is the future of medicine. And so it comes down to training, comes down to having those fundamentals. I'm a real strong believer, I think everyone on our team is, you got to practice before you play. You got to practice in a safe space. You don't see Steph Curry just go out there on the court and just start shooting and not practice in his downtime, right? So we got to practice before we play, before we go out there into these trial facilities, before we run these trials, monitor these trials. And you need, of course, you need a little bit of experience, and experience is practice in the classroom as well as exposure during an internship experience. And a lot of that then relies on those connections where you can start building in the classroom, start networking with individuals. But if you're networking with someone and you're not speaking their language, you're not speaking the language of clinical research, it can be really tough. That immediately presents a barrier. And then, of course, support in, getting all of those interviews. Once you get the interviews, where you take it from there, how you answer those questions. Again, you got to practice before you play, practice before you go into that setting where, your job, that could be your next job.
Yeah, and we provide that support needed. It's not just connections, it's support, it's practicing for the interview, it's really having the training. Someone says, do you have online classes? Well, part of our class is online, but what I tell everyone, would you want a surgeon operating on you if they just learned online? Absolutely not. You cannot learn this only online. Another question is, someone has a public health major with an emphasis in clinical trials. What are your chances of getting a job? Well, without the right training and experience through a program like ours, it's going to be tough. And we are training with experts in the field. We're going into an internship, so you're going to have the the communication ability, you're gonna have the confidence, and you're gonna have the experience you need. So go ahead and apply to clinical research jobs, but if you're not getting interviews, call us, because many people are working, trying to get in on their own, and it's very difficult without the right training, experience, connections, and support. That's really what it takes. One last question: what does it cost? And that's a great question. Remember, all of you who are taking those college courses, the master's programs, it used to be you'd have to take a master's level program at a place like Drexel University, Washington University. These are in George Washington. These are incredible programs that last 2 years. They cost about $25,000 to $40,000 per year. So it was $80,000 to get that master's degree in clinical research. Very expensive in 2 years. Our program, it doesn't cost $80,000. It only costs $9,750. And our students are moving directly into clinical research positions because of that training, experience, connections, and support. And that's really what it takes to get into this growing $150 billion industry. We are going to be in Atlanta, right where you are. You're in Atlanta already, Lauren, in November 9th to 16th. But before that, we're going to be in Philadelphia. So please, if you're interested, give us a call, go on our website, contact us. I'll put our number up on the screen in just a minute. Stay tuned. Oh my gosh, we have so many more questions. I don't think we can get to them all. Yes, we will be in Phoenix, Arizona as well in December. We're going to be in Scottsdale, which is part of right next to Phoenix, as well as Austin, Texas. So if you're in the West, you can do 8 days in Scottsdale or 8 days in Austin, and then do your internship right there where you live at one of our internship partner sites where you're getting that hands-on experience you need. And so if you're in the East Coast, Philadelphia is coming up, as well as Atlanta. On the West, we're going to be in Scottsdale and Austin. Oh my gosh, we're almost out of time, but I did want to mention for all of you that are still on, we do have a special offer for any of you who are enrolling, who are on this webinar. We have a $500 scholarship. All you have to do is let your admissions representative know, webinar 500, and that will give you that $500 scholarship to the program. Wow, this half hour went so fast, Lauren. Can you believe it?
It flew by. I feel like we just got started.
Oh my gosh. So our phone number is right here on the screen. Give us a call, 602-883-7944. Please leave a message if we don't answer right away. We have lots of people who are interested. You do have to apply to the program. We're bringing in qualified individuals. You have to have at least either 2 years of college, a medical assistant license, or an LVN, or of course, if you have a bachelor's degree or higher, a master's degree. We have PhDs in our program. We do have nurses. So all of those backgrounds qualify. And our email is contact@clinicalresearchfasttrack.com. I know we're over time. Lauren, do you have any last thoughts for the group?
No, I just want to say, thank you for your time this afternoon or this morning if you're on the West Coast there. I love clinical research. I always say I'm very protective of the field because what we do is so important. So if you think that this might be a right career path for you, do some digging, do some research on the field, research the research, find that, if it's right for you, we're always happy to chat about research to help you figure out if this is the right career path for you.
All right. Well, Lauren, I want to thank you for your time today. It's such a pleasure to be able to work with you, coming from the Mayo Clinic and now working with us over these past 3.5 years. It's always a pleasure for me to be able to work with such amazing individuals in our field and all of our instructors. And I want to thank all of you who joined us today. We've had a really large crowd, and I wish I could have gotten to every question, but for those of you who didn't get your questions answered, give us a call or send us an email. And thank you so much for joining us. We're out of time, but all the way from San Francisco, California, from Atlanta, Georgia, we want to say thank you again for joining us. And this is a wonderful field, and we hope to see you in the classroom.